What's up, class? Let me know when you're in the chat. How's everyone doing today? Some of your last day before spring break, which is nice. I'm gonna let some of you guys pile in here. Hey Mel, what's going on? I'm just waiting for more of you guys to pile in here. Oh, nice. Color theory assignment for your graphic design class? All right, well then I'm going to get started. First off, you can answer Mel whenever you want to, but class today is probably only going to run until about 8 o'clock because I have to do something after that right away. So I'm going to have to cut and just kind of impromptu. So, oh, cool, color class. So I'm going to have to, hold on one second. I've got a terrorist in my room. Minerva. No, stop. All right. Okay. I stopped the threat. Anyway, so I just kind of an impromptu thing I have to do at 8 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and cut the live stream off then. So it'll be kind of quick today. Other than that, we're going to talk about doing the additional 2 scenes for the principles of motion design or animation inside of Cinema 4D. So today we're going to do the weight or mass scene, and then we're also going to do the impact scene here, or anticipation through impact, right? These ones we're gonna start off with the impact one. I think this one's the slightly more difficult. I don't think it's that hard. Everything's all set up for you guys. If you're to open your templates here that are provided in the module, you'll see that they both look like this. The first thing that you can do is under the weight template. Let me see what the exact name is because I changed it to have my name on it. What's up, Logan? How you doing today? Is everybody ready for spring break? It's gonna be fun. Let me see real quick. The template name. Okay, so the impact one is gonna be called Impact Spring 2022, and then the weight one doesn't actually have a name after it. For weight, it just says Principles of Motion Design Spring 2022. That's the one that is, when you open it up, it's going to have this like ball here. We already did this animation in the squash and stretch one on Tuesday's class, and so you guys can right away just go ahead and delete that object right out of here so that we only have these ones. And I think you can even delete what's the subdivision surface? You can delete that one because I don't think that was utilized for anything here. But the cool thing is that all your lights are all set up in these 2 templates, and also your camera's set up. And when you open up your templates, you're going to notice that you're looking through your camera. Let me turn on my thing here. I feel a little discombobulated today. I'm still working on my office. Hopefully I'll have it painted by the time class comes back, but we'll see. Just working on After Effects motion design. Cool. Sweet. Good to hear. Good to hear that you're doing that. Okay, cool. This one. Nice. Okay, it's on. So when you guys open this, you'll see that you're looking through the camera. You can actually just look through the camera the entire time, even while animating this. So that's why the protection, the protection tag's on both of them, I believe. So you don't even have to worry about messing anything up or not looking through these. And the lights are all set up. So we'll just maybe have to adjust the lighting and stuff here. But yeah, we're just going to kind of get into this and then we'll maybe recap before you guys go off for a week and don't have anything to do. But I would highly suggest utilizing your time to finish off any projects that you might not have gotten done, even if it's late. Even if that project was supposed to be turned in a while ago, you guys can still turn in projects for some sort of credit at all. As far as like the first couple, like the bouncing ball, typography, real and surreal, any of the ones up into here, I would do them over the weekend because something is better than nothing. So I'd rather have 10% than 0%, right? Not that that's what you'll get, but I'm just saying that as an example. So let's just kind of jump right into this. We're going to start with the anticipation scene, also the impact scene. So when you guys are in your module, you'll see it. It'll look like this one here with the hammers, swinging hammers. This one right here where it says impact. If you have it say impact, that's okay. If it says anticipation, that's okay. Either one. I'm probably going to put anticipation in because that's what we're working with. So I'm going to select my text because the text is already set up. I'm going to select the Mo text here. And I'm going to come down to my text spline under the attributes panel and change it to anticipation. Let's see what this says. It's kind of large. Obviously, we need to drop this down, so I'm going to drop the height down until it kind of fits into the area. And you guys can have it all caps if you want. Let's see what that looks like. Drop that down even more. We have 200. All right, that's not bad. I like it. I think I like it more. Anticipation. I don't know. Rocky Horror Picture Show is an older movie, musical technically, and I don't know if you guys have seen it before, but it is a fantastic classic. And in one of his songs, he says anticipation, and he makes you anticipate it. It just makes me giggle every time I say this. An old person joke, I guess. I'm going to change let's do that Lotto font again. It got me all obsessed with that font. Lotto. Let's do Lotto Black to get it nice and bold, or Lotto Bold, whatever one works. That's cool. If I need to nudge. So again, keeping an eye on negative space, right? So you want to make sure that the negative space is similar from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. In this particular case, we're already looking through the camera, so I'm just going to throw that in there. And then let's go ahead and put some materials down, especially for this one before we start animating, only because I think that one takes a little bit longer. I'm going to furl up the studio here, and then I'm going to go into my, let's see here. Let's go into our assets thing here. We'll go in our materials. We're going to be working in the standard materials again, you guys, because of obviously Redshift takes forever. If you guys want to do Redshift, if you have time, especially because it's over spring break. So if you guys want to try the Redshift render, you are more than welcome to. And I believe that campus is still open during spring break, at least maybe I don't know if the labs are. I guess I didn't think about that. Do any of you guys use the labs? If you guys do, let me know if they're open. But I'm going to type in something here that has some tiling that we want to update. So usually, maybe, you know, sometimes carpet, not so great. Ceramic could be a thing. The ceramic tile is cool. But all these are redshift materials. Let's do standard and physical down here and go to ceramic on there. That's kind of neat. The thing is with this animation, the balls are going to have a little bit of a rotation here. So we want to have some kind of pattern to the actual objects themselves. But I think I'll throw the clay onto the text. Let's see what that looks like when HDR Studio Photo. What the heck does that mean? I know that should not happen. Let's see here. What's with the lights? Sky, regular light. It's an area light. The target can be right there. Let's try this one. Terracotta. Will that work for me? Let me see. I think it's because the sky has the HDR on it. Let's shut this off and see what happens then. All right, this is good to know because you guys will probably come into the same similar issues, right? So let's try something different. The HDR is essentially like an image that is in your environment that creates reflections off of your materials, right? So if you're looking here, you can see that it almost looks like something's happening, like there's a reflection of an outdoor environment, like there's trees and a sky, and you can obviously see some shadows like there's trees as well, but it shouldn't be that because it should be a photo studio. So let's look for some HDR environments first and go to all under here and see if we can find something that will work better that we can bring in here. I don't want to replace that one. Let's see what's going on. Let's just close this and reopen it. Sometimes that works. Sometimes you got to do that stuff. Closing. Going back to the one that I saved. Anticipation, reopening. We still have the issue, but at least that's not gone, right? That's the biggest thing. I don't want that to leave. Let us create... That's an image. HDR is an image. Let me drag this one onto here. And maybe put that onto the sky instead. That one's not bad. Let's remove this. Let's see what happens if I... Okay, there we go. So you might have to look for a different studio lighting setup. I just use this basic one right here, which is two lights off to the side, and then obviously like just a black dark room that it's going to show, which should be okay. It looks like we might have to extend the plane, the floor, right? So I'm just going to increase the width to, let's just do 110 centimeters. That way we don't see it. And the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to delete the studio backdrop there so I don't accidentally use that. Then we'll go back to materials and let's go back to those ceramics here and see if this works now, if we drop it onto our text. All right, so that material just seems to not be wanting to play nice. Maybe we have to update our lights later. Let's change the text back to what I had it. Anticipation. We'll start with the animation. We'll worry about the other stuff in a little bit. Let's change this to the lotto. What's up, Maria? Hey, Maria, I sent you a message inside of Discord, so make sure you check that real quick. It's just an update. Let's make this smaller. We're going to change it to a bold. Just a little bit smaller. Move it over like that. That looks good. And let's save. Control S. Let's go ahead and do some animations while we're in here. So I'm going to close this up real quick. And the first ball that we want to have animating is we'll do the front hammer and the ball. So what's going to happen is this hammer is going to swing back, right? It's going to kind of like the motion, it's going to anticipate the motion and it's going to cock back and then it's going to swing forward and hit the ball. Now we're going to have one ball that's heavy and one ball that is light, right? So we're going to probably have, let's have the heavy ball in front. We'll do that one first. It's a little bit more complicated. Because the ball's going to hit or the hammer's going to hit a heavy object, right? This is similar to the projectile that we used in After Effects. And when the hammer hits the heavy object, it's going to bounce back off of that object, right? Because that object is going to, it's a force that this hammer is coming into, so it's not going to go through it, especially since that ball is heavy. But when it comes to the light ball, when the hammer hits that one, it's going to follow through with its movement, right? So, in fact, I'm just going to change this back to impact to keep it kind of, it's just smaller. It just looks a little bit nicer to me at this moment. You guys can keep it to however you want it, but you can have anticipation or you can have impact on here. Either one will be okay with me. Let's just increase the size a tad. 325 because I like even numbers. But when that hammer hits that light ball, the hammer's going to follow through with the motion, right? Because the light ball isn't going to create any resistance for that hammer. It's just going to fly off, right? It's going to fly off screen, where this heavy ball is probably going to stay on screen. Might roll forward a little bit, but not do much else, right? So we'll start with that one. The first thing that I'm going to do is show you guys kind of what you're going to want to animate here. So we have a hierarchy happening, right? We have the hammers and we have the ball, and then we have the right hammer, which is, or I'm sorry, R for rear hammer and the rear ball. So when you guys grab onto the hammer, right, and if you drop it down and you look into this little subfolder here, you're going to see that there's a lot of different parts that, well, a handful of parts that go into making this hammer. But when you animate it, you just want to grab the actual null, because the null is located at the top of the hammer, and that's where the swing is going to occur, right? Because we're working with rotation, and we're only going to be moving in the X rotation. We're not going to be moving in the Y or the Z. So it's actually kind of nice because it's really just one movement that we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to Jose, hello. I was watching the live stream on my phone because I was eating. Couldn't send a chat message. Safari YouTube doesn't have a chat feature. How dare you eat during my live stream? I'm just kidding. That's okay, Jose. You don't have to worry about it. But welcome to the chat. How are you doing? Any special plans for your spring break? While you're answering that, I'm going to increase this area. Well, let me turn on my dope sheet view so we can see our timeline. I'm going to increase this here. And we are going to select the hammer, hit R for rotation, right? Because you want this little gizmo here. And we are going to make sure that our playhead's at the beginning. Let's check our project settings, 24 frames a second. That looks good. Let's just change this 24 times 5 just to keep it extra long. We might not use all that time, but that should work. And then we'll just check our render settings up here. You guys can use a viewport renderer, which is what is on here now. I'm probably going to switch it to the standard renderer. And 1920 1080, 72 frames a second, 72 DPI, which you don't ever touch, right? 24 frames a second, all frames. That's a big one. Under save, let's pick our spot we're going to save. Right here, click our folder. Under 3D, PNG sequences, and this one is going to be new folder, anticipation. That's a good call in getting those assignments done. I would be much appreciative. All right, you're going to save. You're going to freeze on me. It's going to take a second. She's frozen like a block of ice. Come on, buddy. You're fine. Come on, buddy. You got this. There we go. Nice. Just took a little bit of patience. I'm going to close this other project I have open just in case. Making sure that I turn my alpha channel on and that we have PNG, right? And then if you guys are in the viewport renderer, you want to make sure that under your viewport renderer settings, you go to show your transparency, shadows, and reflections. You want to make sure that's on. And then you want to jump into filter and make sure geometry only is checked, okay? When you're using the viewport renderer, that's, I think, where you're going to have some problems possibly with the lighting. And so maybe even trying the standard renderer this time will be good for you guys, especially because you have a little bit more time over the week and it's not due until, when's this one project? The final due date is the 25th of March, right? So you guys have until then to do that. So it might be worth just trying to use the standard renderer. But if you're, of course, obviously, if you're running into issues, you use the viewport renderer, right? But we'll close this off. And now that we have our project all set up, we're going to select that hammer again. Make sure you're on the rotation. Bringing our playhead to the beginning, we are going to actually move this hammer. Let's go to the rotation right here. And when we rotate, we're just going to look over in this attributes panel to see which value is going to move. I think it's, yep, the P. Okay, so we're going to start at 0. I'm going to move about 8 frames ahead, and we're going to move this hammer back, right? So it's going to, I think negative 75 is a good even number, and I'm going to keyframe that there. And then this hammer is going to swing forward. I'm going to move ahead another 8 frames. And it's going to swing forward, but when it hits this ball, remember it's meeting resistance, right? And so it's going to bounce back off. So I'm going to type in 0 degrees because it's going to cock back, it's going to swing forward, it's going to meet that resistance, and then it's going to start bouncing backwards again, okay? So 16, let's go to 24, and we're going to create that bounce back that happens. So we're going to, I'm actually going to change the values using the attributes panel down here because it makes it a little bit easier. Now, when you think of like an object that would swing down like this to hit another object, right? It doesn't stop right away. There's this kind of rocking back and forth of the motion of the swinging that happens. Think of like being on a swing, right? So you're swinging up and down and you want to come to a stop. You don't just, I mean, you can plant your feet and try and stop right away, but usually you're going to eat the dirt. But, you know, you have to come to this slow movement. And so each cycle that you go back and forth, when you stop using your legs to swing you, right, you slowly lose that momentum back and forth, and you don't go as far with each swing, right? And so we want to remember that principle of motion, right, when we're animating this hammer, because it's not going to go back. Remember, this cocked back all the way to negative 75 degrees. When it swings back after it hits the ball, it's not going to swing back that far. okay? Because it's like we pulled that back and we're dropping it from a high dropping point. It's never going to go back up to that 75. So every swing has to be shorter in height or in degrees of rotation, right? And so here I'm going to probably bring this to, I think negative 50 will be good. That's a good number. And I'm going to keyframe that. And then what's going to happen, I'm going to move another 8 frames ahead and swing it forward. Now, at this point, you're going to think that when the hammer makes contact with the ball's going to be moved out of the way, right? So now it's going to swing forward and follow through with that motion. And so we're going to move this over like this. I think 35 degrees is a good place to have that at. So the hammer cocks back, it swings down, it's going to hit that and ricochet off. And then it's going to continue its kind of rocking back and forth motion until it settles into a full stop, right? So the next one, before we did 50, let's do negative 35 as that moves back. And feel free to ask me any questions in the chat while I'm doing this, right? Because I'm going to kind of go into this automated forward. We're going to not go to 30. We went to 35 before, so we're probably going to go 20 right now. So that swing's going to kind of, the hammer's heavy. It's going to lose that momentum rather quickly, right? So 56, we're going to go back. What was the other one that we did here? Negative 35. So on this one, we'll probably do, let's do negative 20. And keyframe. Remember, move your playhead, change your value, record the change, okay? I'm going to move forward. It's probably going to go to, let's go to 10. And move forward again. And to negative 10. Record. I almost forgot to record. And then moving forward. 5. Moving this way. Actually, I'm probably going to drop this down a little bit lower. Let's do it to like 3, 4. Record that. Move this way. It's going to probably not go even back that far. Maybe do like 3. We'll record that. Or I'm sorry, negative, right? It's got to go back. Negative 3. Let's record that change. And then up to 0. Back to 0, right? So when we play this, now it's going to swing back. It's going to hit that. And then it's going to wobble down to a slow, slow down to a stop, right? And so when we're looking at when we go into the F curve mode, bring this up a little bit here. I'm going to select the rotation, and we're going to hit H to show us the sine wave that we have here, right? Because a sine wave is a wave. Here, let me show you guys just what they look like. Just like this, right? It's just up and down and up and down and up and down. Now, the difference between these sine waves that you're seeing here is that the values, right? This one's in amplitude. So the amplitude up here and down here are consistent, where ours is dropping in amplitude as we go, right? So it's dropping, and if this were our hammer, this would be rotation versus time, and the rotation would drop as we go. And so the curve gets smaller and smaller until the object obviously comes to a stop, right? Well, when the hammer hits the ball the first time and it ricochets off, what is that actually that's happening? It's a bounce, right? So we have to create a bounce off of that actual object. So the hammer is going to move back here, and it's going to swing down, and it's going to bounce off of the ball, which is going to be holding down shift. It's going to look like a bounce. I believe it should be like that. Let me move this one kind of like this, right? So we get, boom, nice. And we need that sharp change in a rotation, right? Because it's, again, that hammer is swinging down and falling upon a force that's heavy, and so it's going to quickly shoot that object, that hammer, back. And so that's where this, again, remember, the bounce looks like a sharp change in direction with your curve here. And so you have to make sure that that's at the beginning of the hammer motion on the heavy ball only, right? So when the hammer swings back, it's going to hit that. I can extend this a little bit so it looks a little bit more smooth. Same with this one. So we might smooth this out a little bit here. But then you just want to make sure that your sine wave from the moment that the actual hammer hits the ball and ricochets off, right? From that point, after that ricochet, moving forward from all of these keyframes on, that you get this nice smooth sine wave, right? Where the hammer is swinging back and forth instead of just hitting something swinging back right away. And so I'm just going to exaggerate this sine wave a little bit, holding down let's hold down Control so that we get a nice even motion here. And look how nice and smooth that is. I'm going to hit H on the keyboard just so I can see these little end keyframes. We're going to hold down Control again and just kind of bring that out a little bit. We're just like fine tuning that motion, right? We're kind of smoothing it out, making it a little bit more exaggerated right here. And if you did this, if you follow this in the module, I believe I had, I show you guys in these lessons, especially with this one, the heavy and light one, the curve. And the curve in this lesson is going to be a little bit different because I'm starting from like a place of resting. I'm starting the hammer from in like no motion at all to bringing it back to swinging it forward, versus in the other classes we start in the air from here and then swing it forward. So just keep that in mind, okay? And when we play this again, looks really nice. It bounces off of that and it swings to a stop. We're going to save our work. And then now we want to animate the heavy ball motion, right? Now, remember, when it comes to, like if you think of hitting a ball made of concrete with a hammer, it's not going to go very far, right? So we want to make sure that this ball really doesn't roll too far away when it gets hit, but we want to make sure that the moment of impact is actually where the hammer, like the motion of the ball, the rolling of the ball happens when the hammer actually makes contact. So you want to move your playhead over to that particular section on your timeline, wherever the hammer is making contact with the ball. And that's when we're going to select the front ball, and we are going to animate the position property. And so I'm going to hit E on my keyboard to bring up the position, and it looks like we're only going to have to animate the Z position on the actual ball. So I'm going to grab here, nice, and we are going to, making sure my playhead's in the appropriate spot, keyframe that Z position. And we're going to bring up, I'm going to go back into dope sheet view so I could just see this. And then what's going to happen here is the ball's going to take a long time to settle where it needs to go because it is heavy, right? So probably going to move my playhead to like 76 frames. I might adjust the timing on that. And then I'm going to move it forward a little bit. Not too far because this ball is heavy, right? So the motion of the ball isn't going to go, oop, I didn't record. Again, being smart. Make a change and record it. Put 620 in. There we go. Record. And so now, boom, that ball hits and it moves. Well, the easing obviously is incorrect on this ball, right? Because it's gonna, the motion is gonna be fastest at the beginning and it's gonna slow down to a stop. And so we need to recreate that with our curves. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the ball and we're gonna jump into the F curve mode. And we're just going to take this first frame here and we're gonna bring this up so that, boom, it's a nice slowing, right? Because the fastest part of the motion you want to happen at the beginning. So around this section, right, I think I can do this with this. Nice. Like this section here, it's really gaining most of the speed. And then this section here, it's really slowing down, right? Because look how much longer this rectangle is than this one here. So that ball is actually taking a lot longer. It's not changing in value as dramatically as it is on this side, right? So, actually, I want to redo that. Let's bring this up a little bit more and rewatch this. Boom. Nice. And it's going to come to a nice slow stop. So we have that blocked out there. We'll add some rotation after we add we'll add rotation to the actual ball, but we'll do that after we add material, because right now you guys aren't going to be able to see the rotation because the material on the ball is just like a flat white. And in order to actually see that, you have to be able to see some kind of pattern or some kind of texture or something on the actual ball itself. And so let's go ahead and animate the light ball action. So I'm going to select the rear hammer here, and we're going to do the same thing, right? So I'm going to keyframe the rotation here, because if I hit R for rotation, select the rear hammer again. Again, oops, wrong one. So undo that. Which one is it? This one? This one's turned differently. Oh, I must have grabbed the wrong one. Okay, cool. I had it right the first time. I'm going to keyframe that. I'm going to move forward 8 frames and just essentially kind of mimic the first section of the hammer swing of the heavy ball. So -75. And we're going to keyframe that. And now, though, instead of this hammer swinging down and bouncing off of the ball, right? This hammer's going to swing down, and the forward momentum of the hammer is going to continue throughout the swing because the ball is light. So think of hitting like a ping pong ball with a golf club, right? That ping pong ball isn't going to stop that golf club for anything. And so we want to make sure that swing follows through. And so I'm just going to change the value here to, this one's going to be a little bit faster of a settling down, right? Because we'll go to -50, hit enter. Actually, this one might swing back a little bit further because it's still got all that forward and backwards momentum. So I might actually just change this value right here to 60 keyframe. Moving forward here, going back to maybe -60 keyframe. Moving forward, we'll go 60 minus 15 is 45. We'll keyframe that. We'll move forward. We're going to go back 45 degrees. I'm just kind of keeping this one pretty even on the rocking forward and backwards. 30 degrees would be another 15. I'm just deducting 15 from each one for right now. So then -30 on this one. And moving forward again. So 15. If you guys have questions, let me know. Moving forward. We're going to go into the negatives because it's moving back. Moving playhead forward again. Moving forward to, instead of, we don't want to come to a complete halt. I know we've been deducting 15 degrees of rotation each time we've been going back and forth, but we want to kind of bring it to a slower stop instead of just having it stop really quickly. So I'm actually going to put in here, let's do 8 and then go back to -8 and then go forward, moving a few frames ahead again. Let's do this one to 4, change record, move another 8 frames, 96, 102. Change it to -4, right? Because we want here, here. We'll move another 8 frames and we'll go to 1 and then to 0. Ooh, we're cutting it close. There. So now if we watch this hammer in the back, so the one in the front, let's go ahead and bring our playhead to the beginning and hit play. Boom. Nice, slow, steady swing into that stop. That one swings, you know, obviously it swings a little bit longer than this one, and that's okay. Because there wasn't a force acted upon it to make it slow down significantly. And so with that being said, we're going to move our playhead along here to where the hammer, because now we're going to animate the ball, right? The rear ball, which is light. So we want to hit E on our keyboard because we're going to change the Z position. And we want to, the hammer's going to, oops, let me move this back here. Actually, let's go back to the rear hammer and just kind of smooth out the curve for the sine wave that we have. And with all of these selected, because there's no bouncing off of the object, we are just going to smooth these out. So I'm just going to hit Control and drag this. So it's just some nice looking smooth curves. I might have to update these ones at the end a little bit and bring these in a little more so they're not so squared off, making sure that it continues like this round look to it. So some of these ones towards the end you might just have to adjust a little bit more manually, but these first several keyframes at the beginning you should be able to click and drag and select a bunch of them and update them at the same time. But now if we play it, boom, nice, swinging, 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 stop. Cool. And so now, where does this hammer come into contact with the ball? Right about 1 keyframe. Here, let me pause that. I think right about the 12. I want to make sure that it's kind of in between the 12 and the 13th frame. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this one, this keyframe here where it's 60, and bring this down just a hair. Okay, so that when I bring this back, we might get a spot right there where we I don't think that will work. Nah, because that's going to look like it bounces off. Undo this. Undo this. We're just finding a spot where the hammer is going to make contact with the ball. So maybe this has to move over a little bit. Just move it over a hair. Or, you know what it is going to work is updating the shape of the curve. That's what you want to do. So if you want to get it so that the hammer looks like it's right there, like making actual contact with the ball, you're going to just need to adjust the curve a little bit until it looks like it's hitting, and you kind of get this like hidden section where you can't see behind the M, but you're like, okay, this is good enough. This is where the ball's obviously going to make, or the hammer's going to make contact with the ball. So at the 12th frame is where I'm going to keyframe the ball position, the rear ball position. Cool, this one. And you can always move where the ball is too. Like you can always do that as well. There's just a couple different options for you guys. I'm going to keyframe that there. And then now this ball is going to move off screen very quickly because it's very light, right? We're thinking of like ping pong ball, light golf ball, something that is just not heavy at all. Let me grab that real ball so we can actually see it. H here. Let's see how fast that happens. Might happen a little too. No, that's pretty good. And then we want to speed this up, right? We want this to happen rather quickly. And so let me move this. I'm going to select this curve and kind of go just like this up a little bit. Hit H again. Let's see what this looks like. Nice, because then it's going to come to a stop off screen. We're not going to see it. Of course, you can obviously move this really far off screen if you want, but this grayed out section shouldn't be captured by the camera. If I were just to hit Control R to do a render preview real quick, it won't include, I don't believe it will include this outside stuff, because this is like the bounds of the camera shot. Oh, I guess it will maybe show it. You can move this off if you want to, or you can check and do like a real quick render preview right there to see if you want to like render out a frame to see if you need to move this ball off screen a little bit more. Let me take this. I'm going to hit H. I'm going to move my playhead, and then we'll just change that value so it is off screen, just so we don't have any issues. There we go. And then change a keyframe. You guys could also just grab this here and moved it up or down, holding Control, or just sticking to this line and it'll allow you to do that. There we go. Nice. Okay, I'm going to save this. And cool. Let's throw some materials on now so that we can add the rotation to these. I'm going to hit H here. In fact, let me see this rear ball. Let me go back to this F curve here. Oh, no. This will be slow starting, but then fast. Let me see. No, we don't want it. I had it right the other way. In fact, I might just shorten this up so it even comes, there's faster, right? Because the longer you pull this Bezier handle out, this section right here is going to be the ball slowing down, and we want the ball to kind of come to an abrupt stop more or less off screen, because we're not going to see the ball stop. It's just kind of giving the illusion that it is going really fast. It's going to take a while to stop. So just making sure that the ball's initial movement off screen is really quick is what's most important here. We'll go back to that dope sheet view. We've got this saved. Let me go back to here. Let's type in, let's see after I change the render type if it's going to let, nope. It just does not want to use this. So I'm going to just get off of that one, even though I want to use it really bad. Of course, it won't let me. The metallics seem to be really cool. A lot of students like to use these. When you're putting your materials on your objects over here, making sure that the materials that are on the two balls are materials with some kind of texture where you can see a rotation or a pattern on it, right? In order to see that rotation, we have to have that. If you put a smooth metallic color onto the ball, you're not going to see that rotation happening, right? So just keeping that in mind. Let's try this like corrugated iron for the actual hammer. In fact, because this is a front hammer, and you can drag and drop the materials like I just did, but what's easier is if you want the same material on the entire thing, you just bring this material up to the actual hammer null, right? So didn't mean to do that. The actual head of the object, right? What the null that controls it, and you throw the material on there, and it will update the material all the way through the chain. right? And so that's what I'm going to do also to the rear hammer. I want to control and drag that material to this one. And then I'm just removing the extra additional tags that are on here just because I don't need them. Just going to delete that off. For the actual bar itself, we could maybe mix a little bit of a different type of a metal here. There we go. Let's see what this looks like. I hit Control R to do a render preview. Not bad, not terrible. I might try, let's do the physical render for me to see what. Still just rather quite a bit of noise in here. But that's because of the lack of material on this as well. All right, let me, oh my goodness, little guys, little munchkins in my room, driving us all crazy. Okay, so the word impact, let's have on there something just kind of rather muted because we have more shiny materials on the bar and the actual hammers themselves. So let me try to do something. Oh, that's cool. Does this work for this? I wonder. So if I hit Control R, what will that look like underneath? It'll just be like white underneath. Oh, that's kind of neat because the material is transparent where the holes are. So you could have like an additional material under it. Like right now the white material is under there. But let's see what happens if I remove, because this is a patterned material, right? If I remove that, and then I can see this might be good for the light ball if you guys wanted to do something like this because it looks like a very light material. But I'm going to stay away from that. But I just wanted to test it out, see what it looked like. Let me go to maybe plastics here. Plastics seem to work really well with these lights in particular. Maybe something a little bit shiny, not as matte. We'll throw that on the word impact. I think it's the text that we're running into an issue with in particular here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this text. I'm going to add in a new text object and see if that's going to help. We'll select this and go to object itself and change this to impact and make the updates that we did before. Sometimes it's just a little bit of problem solving that it takes. We'll change this to bold, increase the size. Obviously it needs to be rotated. All right, so coordinates, let's see which rotation. Yep. So we'll just type 90 degrees. I'll move this forward, move this over. Still getting a little bit of an issue with the lights, but let's see if we put a material on. That'll help. Let's drop the size. Something like that. Bring that over this way. Will you work? There. It's the studio lighting then. Let's zoom out of here. I don't need to do that. Come on. We're frozen. Escape. Take me out. Alright, just a little frozen here. Let it go. Come on. What the heck? Let me see if I can shut off that zoom it. Sometimes that app just gives me issues. Task manager. Oh, now you're going to do that? permanently zooming me in. Hold on 1 second. I don't know why. I hate this notation thing. It gives me such a pain. Let me see if I right click. If I draw something, shut it off. You guys, my computer's gonna blow up. Beep, beep, beep. Come on. Let me see if I can find the app this way. Cool, can I shut it off? Yeah, I did that. There. Are you done? Okay, right? All right, there we go. All right, so let's update the lighting since we're having such an issue with that. We'll go under Studio. Let's delete the sky object. Let's add a new sky object in there. So we're going to go over here, hit sky, drop that into the studio, and we'll throw that HDR onto the sky that we had before. Which light? Actually, let's go back here and figure out which light in particular is causing the issue. It is this one. Okay. So it's a target. It's just an area light. But if we change that to a spotlight, you're going to still cause me issues? Yeah. Let's see here. Maybe it's not in the right spot. Area light. Let's delete that. Hit Control R right now. Yeah, so I can see. Let's not look in the camera. Let's move out of the camera view. Zoom out. And let me throw in. Let's shut off the sky real quick because it's a little bright. Or not. Maybe it's just the material. There we go. Turn it back on. There. Okay. And let's search Control C for area light. And we want to make sure it's the standard area light. And we're going to just double click and bring that in. And drop that down into our studio. And let's bring that up here to the top. And notice that this area light is like pointed this, like the orientation is this way and this way, but maybe if we change the orientation to be pointing down, it might change it. I don't know if you can do that with the area light. I think you can. All right, maybe not. Let's undo that. Other way. Oh. Let's just move it to be in the front and up a little bit. And so when we look through our camera, nice. Now if I hit Control R. All right, not bad. Let's see if we can let's put some shadows onto there, right? So we get some soft shadows. Okay, much better. Maybe we're going to bring that into the front of the word impact so it doesn't shadow off the M so much, because that's kind of the issue that we're showing right now. So I'm going to go back out of my camera, zoom out of my scene a little bit, maybe rotate my scene and bring this over here. The other thing that we can do is so we added that HDR map onto the sky, right? So if I turn around and I look at the sky, you can see that HDR image that we essentially applied to it. Think of the sky as like an orb around your environment, and we added that picture onto it, and so the sky is like, it's just black and white in one spot. Well, let's see if there's, first of all, a different HDR material we can grab. Maybe there's something a little bit nicer. HDR Studio lighting, maybe something like this would be nice because it's a little bit of a smoother looking kind of transition from one light to the other. In fact, I'm going to drop that onto my sky right now if I can, or just delete this HDR, bring this one into my materials, and then drop that onto the sky. There we go. And then you can actually rotate the sky material. If I go to rotate, you can kind of rotate your HDR around. Actually, you can even just obviously rotate the sky itself. You don't have to just rotate the material. If you rotate the sky, it'll give you a different angle of that HDR, which will obviously make your scene look a lot different as well. So let's just jump back into our scene real quick, and maybe we rotate this around so we get, I don't like that super hard shadow on there. Let me hit Control R to see how hard of a shadow that is. That's not terrible. I maybe would add an additional scene or light into there. Maybe we pick a different HDR that's a little bit brighter. So it has less dark zones in it. Where's the one I grabbed? I grabbed this one right here. Maybe we grab this one. Let's drag this one in the scene and try this one instead. So I'm going to delete this one, remove that from the sky, and place this new one on the sky. And then maybe we just move the area light that we created up a little bit more. So let's look out of our camera. Maybe we change the position right there so that we get rid of that kind of hard shadow that was happening on the I and the M of our text. Then we can look back into our thing. Hit Control R. There we go. Looks not much nicer. Okay. And let's find a material for the floor. I think that there's like wood floor paneling that a lot of people like to use, tiles as well. I like to use like this kind of parquet or these like wood planks on here because you get this kind of, you get like obviously the materials on there, right? And you can see, but you get this pattern on the floor which allows you to update the tiling to make this scene appear bigger than it is, right? Because if you put a tiny little apple in the middle, or like a tiny object in the middle of a wood floor, the floor, like the pattern and the tile size of the floor will impact like the look of how small that object is, right? And so if the tiling of the floor is much smaller, I put a larger object on that floor in comparison with the size of the tiles and the pattern on that floor material, it gives the illusion that the object is actually larger than it is, right? And so we want to, first of all, let's go into our project settings, Control D here, and see if we can update the object. I think it's under, is it under here? Maybe it's under, let's hit Control C or Control, this is Control D, Shift. No, I didn't want to do a render preview. I think it is in the project settings. Or maybe it's on the material itself. Let's remove this from the plane. And we really want to, let's increase the tiling first of all. $50 by $50, right? Let's see what that looks like. That might be way too small. Of like this wood floor look. It's not terrible. I'd probably increase or decrease that size a little bit. So let's do like 30 and 30. We're changing the tiling so the size of the floor doesn't look too crazy. 30, 30. Let's do a render preview of that. Much nicer, right? Now this makes it appear like there's like this object is much larger than you would think it would be on the floor. In fact, I would probably keep it around there. You can even drop it a little bit more. This has like kind of this hard edge. It's not very seamless looking, and that's why these materials with like the planks look really good, because they are offset, and so the material appears more offset. So if I drop this parquet on here and we increase the tiling, let's try 30 and 30. Again, that's way too small. So probably drop this to like 10, 10. Each material is different. We'll do a quick render preview. But this looks much more seamless because the tiles like are offset with each other, the wood planks. I'd probably even do 5 and 5 on this one because of the... Yeah, that looks much better. That looks much more realistic, right? So you guys can kind of play around with these little wood materials on here if you want to. Or you can play around with a different kind of metallic materials on here. Having like some kind of pattern. But, you know, if you do have a pattern on here, just make sure you're updating the tiling so it looks appropriate with the scene overall. And then let's go ahead and add a material to our actual ball here. Now, I think I have... Let me see if we can... Let me just check my notes here. I think there's a way I want to add a pattern around the ball. Okay, yeah, let's create a pattern material for the actual ball. So the first thing I want to do is create my own material specifically for that ball. So I'm going to go up here to add and just create a new material. It's just like a standard material that you get. I'm going to double click on that so that I can come into these options. And I'll maybe label this one front ball, right? F ball for front ball. And we want to... Let's select the material. There's a preview size. Oh, maybe there is a... That's what you do. Okay, so if you guys are... Let me delete this. You can update the preview size in your material. If you click on the little material tag over here on your layer, and then you go to... Usually there's an option that has viewport. Let me undo what I did before because I thought this one did. Nope, not on that one. I guess not. But if you go down here, I have my material that I created. And you go to viewport, and you can change your preview size here from default to something a little bit higher. This is where you want to do that. So the viewport, just so we can see this in more of a crisp and clear and less pixelated. So let's double click on this. And we're going to add an actual material into the reflectance channel here. And so you want to make sure that your reflectance channel is selected. And we are going to go down here to where it says texture. Right down here. And under the texture, we are going to add the pattern. Let me see. You can add different surfaces here. Tiles, sunburst. Is this the one that I wanted to add? Possibly this one. Let me undo that. Let's uncheck colors. I'm pretty sure that it is under surfaces. So you can check checkerboard. I think the stars one is kind of neat. I don't know if you can do it in the color. You might be able to do it in here too. So let's do something a little bit different under the color panel. Let's see if we can add a surface and do the tiles. Ooh, and then you can add a reflectance and add a different one. The tiles is boring. Let's see if there's a different one. What's Venus? Nope, can't even really see it. Maybe you can. Let's see if we can update the colors and change that, right? So let's do something like this. Ooh, interesting. Not as textured as I want it to be, not as like prevalent of a pattern, essentially. The galaxy, that's kind of neat. Let's click on galaxy. Let's take it far, far away. Right there, it's cool color. Double click. Maybe drop in a little more blue. This color here, kind of in between that. Saturate it a little bit more. I'm looking here to change the color. And then this one I want to obviously darken up. But you guys can have a lot of fun in this area, in this section of the materials panel. I'm probably going to shut off this texture right here. Clear this. We're going to take it off. We'll just put this on here. And drop it on the first ball. And then maybe duplicate this. Just hitting Control C, Control V, and relabeling this to rear ball, and updating the material in here as well. Isn't there a pattern option? Under reflectance, under the texture, surface, tile. Let's do this one. But let's double click on the pattern. I think you can actually update in this. Yeah, okay, this is what I was looking for. So inside of the reflectance, you can still add the texture. In fact, you can do that with the color too if you want to. Let's clear this one out. Clear that real quick, and we'll just do it in the reflectance right now. So you have two different ways to do this if you want to. And you can, this is a physical base render. If you do it this way, you might have to create a PBR material. So, which is a physically, PBR is not the beer, but physically based render material. And this one is the one that I think is where you go into the reflectance and you change the material, picking surfaces, going into tiles, and it allows you to do it this way. The other way I did was just like a classic material, and so if you just create a classic material, you unfortunately aren't going to be able to go and add the texture into the reflectance. You can just add the texture into the into the color there. But we're going to do it with the reflectance on this one. And I'm going to change the pattern to, let's see, radial lines. That looks kind of neat. Not bad. Planks. What are those? Kind of interesting. The scales one is cool. We'll just pick maybe some different colors here. Ooh, that's interesting color. Right, because we already have the green going on, so maybe I just darken that a little bit. And keep the other one white. And then we can actually, you can change the grout color, so the grout in between all that black, we can update that one to maybe like a darker green. Ooh, lighter green looks interesting, but I like the darker green. And then you can actually change the grout width on this. So you can, like if it's, what was it before? I think like 10, what was it? 5. But if I do 15, like it obviously makes that much thicker looking. We'll go back to 5, not 53. The pain of having sausage fingers, right? Little sausages. Little sausage fingers. Okay, you can update the bevel width if you want to. You can randomize your color if you want to, which really actually looks kind of neat. In fact, I'm going to do another form of green in here. Maybe something a little bit more, less yellow, more towards a blue. Interesting. Okay, that works. And then I'm going to click off of that and then apply this to the back ball. And in fact, I'm going to update the front ball to be that way. So I'm going to delete that material. I'm going to, instead of just hitting the plus, I'm just going to go up to create, and under classic materials, you'll go to physical, create a new PBR material. That's the one you want to create. So we'll go to, I think you can hold this down and pick one too. New PBR material. Double click on that. Go into your reflectance. Go into your texture. Go to to surfaces. And you can pick your pattern at that point. Sunburst. Interesting. Not my favorite, but still interesting. The star field's kind of neat. Let's double click on this. You don't get too much of an option to update with all of them, but you know, some of them, especially the patterned ones, you do get that option. Okay, so that works. So I'm going to save this. We're not going to focus too much on this, but now we want to add that like rotation into here, right? Now that we have the patterns on our materials, we want to add that rotation because obviously the ball's not going to just slide across the floor. That's a problem here when we play this animation. The ball looks like it's just kind of sliding, right? Instead of actually rotating, which is what really happens. And so when we do the heavy ball, let's go ahead and add that rotation. Let's add the rotation onto the light one first, so the one in the back. So I'm going to click on the rear ball right there. And we're going to move our playhead to the point of impact. And we're going to keyframe the rotation. Now, when it comes to rotation of the ball, it's actually going to rotate in a negative way. It's actually going to rotate this way when it moves, or this way when it moves forward. So you're going to make sure it goes in the negative. So we're going to first keyframe it at 0 when the ball gets hit. And then when the ball is off screen, we'll keyframe that into a negative number. Maybe negative 180. So it goes a full half turn. And so when we play it, in fact, I might lengthen this just a little bit so we get to see it a little bit more. Ball rotation as well. We want to lengthen the rotation. I just accidentally lengthened only the position, but I want to make sure I do the rotation as well. Cool. And so the ball, as it's moving off screen, is rotating in the appropriate direction. Now, let's go ahead and move into our F-curve view here. And we want this to be, select one at a time. We want this to be like this. I want our curve to kind of look like this, right? So it's like, because it's moving in the opposite direction, we're like going to be picking up that speed right there as we get hit. And then it's going to slow down into, it's going to slow down right into this, to the stopping motion. But when it first initially gets hit, it technically would roll the opposite way, right? So we can make it look a little bit more realistic if we take this here, this keyframe, and we maybe move it over a few frames. And then we add another keyframe here. So I'm going to just click the ball and hit that. And then maybe it rolls just for a slight second in the opposite direction, like maybe 15 degrees. We're going to keyframe that. And so when we play it, boom, it's going to do a slight forward rotation in the back. I'm going to bring this up so I can see my curve hitting H. And we're going to kind of move this up like boom, like that. So if we watch, it's going to get hit and it's going to roll the one way and then it's going to start to roll the other way. So it's almost like when you hit it at first, it doesn't initially, it takes like, at first the rotation is determined by the hammer hitting the ball, but then when it starts to roll on the floor, like the forward momentum of the ball starts to take control of the rotation, and so that's why it kind of rolls one way and then the other way. And so I'm just going to kind of make the curve look like it's going to peak right here and then it's going to go into that backwards rotation, or the appropriate rotation. I'm going to hit H again on my keyboard. And we're just going to kind of go here and mess around with our curves a little bit. That looks really nice. And we're going to apply the same theory, right, to the front ball as well. So we're going to go to our dope sheet here. And in fact, the rotation can continue, I think, 1 to 2 frames. Like I think that the rotation, if I hit H on here, of the rear ball would stop before the position. So I would almost move this in a frame or two. So it's just slightly offset. It doesn't really matter on this one because you don't see it when it goes off screen. But let's do the heavy ball here. So the heavy ball gets hit right here. And we're going to hit the front ball, and we're going to go to select the front ball, go to the rotation properties, and keyframe it at 0 starting off. And then we're going to move to where it ends, and we're going to change the rotation. It's going to go negative. Not as far, right? So negative 50. We'll keyframe that. Maybe move this in a couple keyframes. So if we watch this now, nice. In fact, where does the ball? The rotation's continuing. We want the rotation to end before the ball stops. Let me select. Oh, I accidentally moved my position keyframe. So again, making sure that you're grabbing the appropriate ones. I just extended the length of it. So just make sure that when you go, what I was doing was just grabbing keyframes here, not realizing which one I was grabbing. What you should do is best practices to go over here on the left side of your dope sheet and actually grab like the position or the rotation, whatever transform property you're working with, in order to move them, right? Because what was happening is I grabbed the wrong ones and it didn't look appropriate. In fact, I'm going to move this in maybe a couple more. Let's see what that looks like. No, I think that's a little bit too far off. I think back at 76 was a good time. I'm going to save this, and we're going to jump into the F curve, or the curve mode. And we're going to do exactly what we did before. I'm going to grab this one, this curve here. I'm going to hold down Control so I lock it into place. And then I'm going to add a new keyframe right here, where the ball rolls in the opposite direction very slightly. It's going to roll forward maybe 10 degrees. And keyframe that. And we're going to hit H on our board here so we can select this this one right here, pull this out. This one right here, we're going to move it like this. And then this one, we want to break this, so holding down shift, right? And so we're going to bring it down like here. The biggest thing is to making sure that the smooth, it's still a smooth line and it's not kind of jarring looking. Like if I were to grab this because I broke it and it looks like it goes boom and then it all of a sudden makes a hard change. You don't want that, right? We want it to be a nice smooth transition from one direction to the other. And so just kind of looking at your curve and being like, is that smooth enough, right? So nice. That looks great. And so we have our impact scene all done here. Which is probably one of the harder ones to do, especially because we're adding in that rotation with it. And so the, in fact, we need to start this rotation. Let's see here. Maybe the rotation starts at 0 and it goes forward at first. So let's grab the ball, start it at 0, right? Because we want it to look appropriate. And then maybe this one, it goes like this. There we go. That looks much better. There we go. Look at that. So just making sure that the first two keyframes are at 0, but then you update it by overshooting the curve, right? So that's how you get it to kind of slowly to start like boom, and it goes one direction for a very split second and then rolls in the appropriate direction. So you could even take this one and pull that out a little bit more right there. And then we're going to do that also. We're going to update the rear ball as well, so it looks like that. So the rear ball, I'm just going to select the rear ball rotation, hit H on the keyboard. We're going to move this way, and this one should be at 0, so we're going to bring our playhead over here, select that rear ball, put that at 0, make sure we keyframe it, record your change, and then this is how, holding down shift on that one. Nice. So there we go. That looks really good. Much better. How are you guys doing following along? Are you struggling, or is this okay for you guys? We're almost done. The next one we have is just bouncing. The mass. And that one's, I'd say, the easiest one to do. All right, so let's move on to the next scene. I've got this one saved. Obviously, what I'd want to do is I'm going to hit Control R to make sure everything looks good. Nice, yeah, everything looks okay. I'd maybe add an additional light into here, just to kind of brighten up that one spot where the bar is creating like a shadow over that. But other than that, it looks good, right? Let me close this one. Let me open the next one. Let's see. Where's it? Under desktop, GCC. Motion design, 3D, Cinema 4D files, and we're going to wait, right? Okay, so this one's all set up for you. Again, if you had that one ball in there, you can delete that. I deleted it from here as well. And then we're going to, let's try changing the type, right? This one's going to say, it can say mass or it can say weight, either one. I'm going to put mass. And then I'm going to change the font to that Lotto so it's consistent overall. Bold. Perfect. Oop, I don't want to change the kerning, but that is great. And then I'm going to move this over to the side a little bit so it's centered. And then I'm actually going to move the balls a little bit over too, because the one before was over here, but now because I removed one of them, I just kind of want to center up things appropriately. And so the first ball that we have is a ping pong ball, right? And if you think about dropping a ping pong ball like on a let's say both scenarios were in a room with like just, you know, like a gymnasium or something like that, and you drop down, you throw a ping pong ball on the ground and it's going to bounce and it's going to bounce, 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 bounce. And it's going to continue bouncing forever, right? And so we're actually not going to get to the end of the bounce with this ball. This ball is going to continue bouncing off screen, similar to how with our anticipation scene and the impact of the light ball, that light ball continued to move off screen, right? And so that's the similar concept that we're going to have here with this ping pong ball. And so we're going to actually start by animating just the Y, the bouncing up and down, right? Because it's usually easier to start with one coordinate and then adding in the other coordinates, right? So I'm going to move, and then remember that every bounce that happens after, like every bounce after the previous bounce is going to like be shorter in time and shorter in height, right? But not by much. I mean, this is the light ball, so it's going to continue to bounce forever, versus if you were to drop a big bowling ball onto that same gymnasium floor, you're probably going to get like three bounces maybe, but they're going to drop in height dramatically, and they're not going to, it's not going to go very far, right? Versus this ping pong ball, which is going to just like bounce until we all die. So just keeping that in mind. Keyframed the initial position at 0 frames, and then I'm going to move ahead 6 frames. And in fact, let's check we need to check our project settings here. So Control D, 24 frames a second. Let's do 24 times 5 again. We'll have 5 seconds on here. We'll put that at 0. Preview max, 120 frames. We want to see all of our frames here. And then going into our render settings, because each one of these templates are separated, you just have to double check on everything, right? So we're going to go into our PNG sequences, and we're going to create a new folder. And this one's going to be called mass for weight, right? Either or. Oh, okay. We're going to double click on that, and then we're going to save that there. Making sure that your alpha channel is on. I am going to jump into the standard renderer because that seems to work best with this lighting right now. And just making sure that my output is appropriate, 1920, 1080, 24 frames a second, all frames. We're good to go. And let's just kind of close the material section right here. And so now I'm going to move 6 frames ahead. And in fact, let's move 12 frames. We'll move by 12. And we're going to drop the ball onto the ground. So I'm going to bring that down here. In fact, let's grab the ping pong ball so we can see what that value would be. If we go down to 0, it's too far. So I think it was like 5. Let's go up a little bit more. Right there. 10 centimeters works for me. Record, locked in. Moving another 12 frames, we're going to go back up, but it's not going to be as high as we went before. So before we were at, what was it? If I move my playhead, 533. I'm going to change that to 525, so it's like an even number. 525 centimeters. Drops down to 10 centimeters. It's going to bounce back up. Obviously not that high, not the 525. Maybe it goes to 450. I guess that'll work. Record. Move another 12 frames. Drop it back down to 10, right? Because 10 is our like ground area. It technically would be 0, but where the studio is set up, I just had to put 10 because that makes it look like it's coming into contact with the ground. I'm going to move ahead another few frames. I can even just control drag this keyframe here and just change the value if you want to do it that way. Just making sure that you remember to record it again. So I'm going to go like, what's half of 250 is 225, right? Or 450 is 225. So I'm going to record that. I'm going to move ahead 12 frames. I'm going to go back in, type in 10. Again, moving ahead 12 frames. 225 divided by 2. That works. You can do it exactly so it's like precise, right? So I'm going to move ahead 12 frames. 84 here, and it's going to go onto the ground, which is going to be 10. Sorry. Right? It was up before, hits the ground, goes back up. Going to 96 frames. What was it before? If I hover over, so 112.5 divided by 2. We'll just keep dividing by 2. Hit that. Now we got to move over and move up another, what is it, 12, 108. Keyframes, type in 10, keyframe it, move up another 12, 120, and then I would just drag this one and select the ping pong ball and just this divided by 2. And that's what's great about these programs is they do the math for you, which is fantastic because we're not all great at math. And so now when I play this, right, we see this bouncing happening. It's slowly coming to a stop. But obviously the curve is not appropriate here. We need to update the curve so that it's an actual bounce. So it accelerates towards the ground and decelerates on the way back up. And so we need to go into the curve here, and we need to hit H. And then we need to turn this into a bounce, right? So we need to go like this. We need to take this one and holding shift, bring this up. This one too. Same with this one, holding shift. All right. And then each one. I know this is like so repetitive to you guys. And then after we are done with this project, we move into some more fun stuff, right? But this is really good at like getting you guys to understand the principles of animation so that you start to think, oh yeah, I have to obviously, you know, account for physics and stuff when it comes to animation. And then I'm just going to accentuate the top of the bounces. Maybe like that. This one, a little bit more. This one isn't bad. I'm going to hold down one and move to the side. Again, you can just hit H to center it. I think that's okay. So now when I play this, boom. Okay. I think this is opposite. Did I do this the opposite way? I think. It shouldn't be. We can also make it stay on the ground. I think my curves are the wrong way. Because when I play this, it's accelerating up. So it's the opposite of this, you guys. So I was like, this looks so weird. Let me undo this. There. Okay. So opposite, right? So this way. There we go. This looks better. I was like, wait, these are the floor keyframes. That's why I was like, obviously this is not right. Okay, this one, bring this one up. This one here. This one here. Just making sure you don't add that overshoot in, right? That overshoot, that'll get you. So just making sure that your curve doesn't cross the actual keyframe. So it gives you your overshoot. And then we're going to just accentuate these ones. There we go. This looks much better. Something was going on. I did not feel comfortable with that. Control. That looks great. Okay, so now if I play it, there we go. much more like a ping pong ball. Well, we don't want it to just bounce in place here. We're actually going to have this so it bounces forward too at the same time. And so we are going to add the X position in, and it's going to move forward. The cool thing about it is we already have the bounce, and so we only need 2 keyframes for the X position. This initial keyframe right here, and then as it's moving off screen, we're going to just move this forward off screen so we can't see it, and then we are going to also keyframe that position, and then look, you can actually see the bounces occurring with the animation path, which is really cool. And so now if we click on the X position here, we hit H on our keyboard to bring this up, and we can make it so that it looks like this, right? So that it's going to start faster and then kind of move slowly into the final resting position. Boom, 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 boom. That looks great. And we already have our ping pong ball. And so we just have to do the same thing essentially for the bowling ball. Let's go ahead and let's add a material on the floor so we can at least see something. Let's see if this is going to work without having to update the lighting, because that was a pain. I'll just throw this parquet on the floor. See how that looks. Cool. And then if I select I'm going to drop down the studio. I'm going to delete that other floor thing there. And I'm going to select the material under the tag properties is where you can increase. Let's do 10 and 10. I think the photo is missing or something's going on with it. Oh, that looks good. That's not bad. Nice. Perfect. Okay, cool. Wonderful. Let's add just a plastic or plaster standard. Let's see how this, I'm going to pause this, right? Let's see how this leather material looks on the text. Nope. Dang that. That works. Sometimes you just got to be like, okay, that material's not working for me. Let's try a different one. Let's try this one. This one looks kind of neat. The only problem with these materials sometimes is they look funny on the edges. Like you can see this odd seam happening right there that goes all the way down the text, and so I actually probably would not use this on the text. This would be great for the actual ball itself, so maybe we'll put that on the heavy ball, and then the ping pong ball could be something that would look like a light material, right? Sports balls, in fact. Maybe a golf ball. Tiny little guy. Is that gonna work? Hit Control R. Just hit OK if this pops up for you guys. Nope, that one doesn't work for that, so let's undo that. Let's delete this. You guys can always create a new PBR material if you want to. I'm just going to get something that looks lighter. Let's just throw that on there. And we'll be able to see it. Okay, and now let's do the heavy ball, like the heavy stone ball bounce, right? So I'm going to select the bowling ball. And we're going to start with a Y. I'm going to jump into my dope sheet view. And we're also going to move 12 frames ahead. We're going to drop this onto the ground. So I'm going to change this down to right where it looks like it hits the ground, right about there. What is that? 62. And I'll keyframe. And then we're going to move. Let's move back and see what the first one was. It was 510. We'll put 510. We'll keyframe that. Move forward. Hits the ground. It's going to bounce back up here. Now, the thing is, when you have something heavy, right, kind of before with the ping pong ball, we were using like the rule of cutting it in half every time. Well, this is like cutting it down by 2/3 every time. So, so instead of what was it before? It was 510. Let's type 510 in so we can see that. And then we're going to drop this down quite a bit more. So maybe to like there, right? So even further than that. Let's go to 200 and 225, right? And we're going to keyframe that. And we're going to go back down to 62. Let's furl this one up. We're going to drop this one down. Position. Okay, cool. 62 centimeters, great. Now I can see that. 62, enter, not 0, just enter keyframe. Moving forward, what was this one? 225. So I'll type in 225, but then we're going to drop it down quite a bit. So this is going to only have like a few bounces to it, maybe. So I'll put 90. We'll do 100. And then we're going to move forward, and the other value is 62 is like a floor value. Obviously, it's not 0 because of the center of the center, like the center access point or the anchor point is in the center of the ball. So keeping that in mind. We did 100 last time. Let's drop this. Let's just do maybe 82. So it's only a few over where our floor value is. We're going to keyframe that. We're going to go back here. We're going to type in 62, enter, keyframe it, move back up here. We're going to type in 72, keyframe it, and then 62 is what it's going to end on. 62, keyframe it. So now when we watch this one, boom, 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 boom. Might not even be that many. You could even cut that to like just a couple bounces, right? And then I'm going to select the position. We're going to jump into our F-curve mode, and we're going to turn this into a bounce, right? So holding shift, turn this into a bounce. There we go. This as well. Obviously, this is a much shorter sine wave that we have going on here. And so you're going to want to make sure that you're not, again, overshooting on any of these values when you update the curve to make it into a bounce. And it's sometimes very hard unless you zoom in kind of closer. We're going to extend this out a little bit more. Do the same right here a little bit. And then these ones look okay. Let's do this. Boom. And we're in fact going to shorten the length of this, right? So the animation is too long at the end. These bounces would be much shorter towards the end of the bounce. And so I'm going to take this and just kind of drag the end in a little bit. In fact, it will just kind of squish itself down in. And we're going to rewatch this. Nice. In fact, these ones, maybe towards this one, this one, this one, and this one. Oh, this one through this one. There we go. Are much shorter. Right? So, and then this one comes in much shorter there. And so now, really heavy looking ball. Especially when you start to tighten the timing up between the frames, the keyframes that you have. I'm going to hit the position on here. We're going to jump into our F-curve just to make sure that nothing is, because when you start to mess with the timing, it will mess with your curve a little bit. And so I just want to, in fact, just select each one at a time and kind of update this curve as necessary. Maybe bring this one out a little bit. Bring this one out a little bit. Maybe this one. Bring this one out a little bit. There, just a hair. And maybe even this one in slightly. There we go. Update this one too. There we go. Boom. I'd probably move this one over. Holding, oh, not control. Just do that. Move this one over into the center. Maybe move this one. So I'm updating the timing just in the curve mode, right? And you can also update the height of the bounce as well. I'm going to grab this right there. Just kind of adjusting. I'm going to hit H on my keyboard so I can bring this up. That overshoots a little bit, so I want to bring that down a hair. Bring this one over. Sometimes shortening the Bezier handles, but bringing them a little closer to the actual keyframe helps as well. So let's watch this. Nice. And then we're going to add the X position in here as well. So selecting your bowling ball, starting at the front, keyframe your X, move to the end, but this won't move very far, right? It's just going to move a little bit forward. So we're going to keyframe this, maybe right to there. Am I doing the bowling ball or the ping pong? I think I'm doing the bowling ball, right? The X position, hit H. There we go. Okay, cool. And then we're going to update the curve. So that looks like that. And so now, for some reason, the curve is just showing up. The animation path is showing up right here, even though the ball is actually animating over here. I was like, what is happening over there? But that looks not bad. I would probably actually just, in fact, that last bounce is kind of bugging me. So I'm going to go into my X position right here. I don't think it's really necessary right here. So hits the ground, bounces up, hits the ground right here. Let me go into my F curve. Might be easier this way. But this is essentially what it's going to take you guys, right? So going back and forth, I need to delete these last two keyframes. So I'm just going to delete. Oh, can I just delete these? I can't. Okay. So I have to go into this one, delete this one, and this one. Nice. Okay. Perfect. And then you guys can actually add a little bit of rotation into yours as well. So I'm going to save this. Let's do the bowling ball. The bowling ball specifically will have a little, like a good amount of rotation into here. Let's see which way. Nope. Nope. It's going to be this way. So I'm going to keyframe at the beginning, and then right before the ball comes to a full stop here, because I can see the keyframes right here, I'm going to move a few frames ahead, maybe stop the rotation right about here. So, and just have it rotate just a hair, not by much. Even 30 degrees seems like a bit, but let's see what that looks like. Nice. And then I'll just go into my F curve mode and go back into the rotation right here, hit H, and just update this curve to look like this. Nice. And so we have a little bit of rotation happening with that heavy ball, but you can see that mass, you know, inside of, you can see the weight of that ball is much different than the ping pong ball there. So that's essentially the end of this lesson right now. I think that this was the more simpler one. So if you want to start off easy, I would start with this one. And I think I would stay, like, maybe save the impact or the squash and stretch for last if you feel you want to do that. Or if you're like me, I like to tackle the hard things first and save the easy stuff until after, because then it makes my life less stressful. But I'm going to be cutting class short right now because we finished this. So for spring break, I really want you guys to catch up on any work that is not turned in right now. If you can do that, turn it in. If you don't have it turned in by the time you guys get back, it's just going to have to remain at a 0. And then just work on getting this one done. And, you know, try and find some time in between there to relax. But when we get back in class, like a week from, not after next week, right? When we get back into class, I think it's the 19th. We're gonna be starting a new project, and I'm also going to throw in a revision round, right? So anything that's been graded, um, and has any kind of revisions put onto it, we're gonna start working on that. So I'm probably going to grade your real and surreal projects and your principles of motion design inside of After Effects. I'm going to grade those over the break so that you have them. So we're not going to do an in-class grading of that. I'm just going to grade it and put your feedback into the actual comments under your assignment. So you'll want to make sure you save those somewhere so that you can access them later and actually implement those changes that I give you guys for the feedback. Other than that, I hope you guys have an awesome spring break. And you'll get to see my lovely, lovely face when I come back because I'll have my office reset up and everything. But other than that, yeah, enjoy your guys' time. Have a lot of fun. Even if you're doing work, at least you'll be able to relax and not have to worry about another project starting in the meantime. You'll be able to catch up a little bit more. Yeah. All right, Jose, good night. And Maria, yes, let's. All right. Yeah, Logan, have a good night. Enjoy your spring break, you guys. Bye.